G'day everyone. Just having a laugh here, looking at some of the comments already coming in, talking about coronas and stuff. I am going to have a coffee with you guys shortly. Say hi in the chat, guys. We're in pre-show mode at the moment. I'm going to give it a few minutes for everyone to log on due to the fact that YouTube's just not notifying users when they come in. Actually, I might even go into the photography videography school because I should notify them in there. Let me just bring that up. For some reason, YouTube is not notifying a lot of people with the bell, even though you've clicked the bell icon. A lot of people aren't notifying people through there. So let me just bring this up, and I'm just going to put a post in. That way people will see it from there. Please, if you haven't joined too, please join that group. I'm just bringing this down so you can see which group it is. Photography Videography School. I know I keep pushing it, but this is the place that I want you guys to all join us in that group, because it's a great place to post and things like that. And obviously I'm posting in there all the time, but we're getting a lot of other work that's being posted. That was Ben's image that he put in earlier today. I just had a coffee with Ben a few minutes ago. We had a really good chat about wedding photography and other things. So please join us on this group. It's an amazing group, guys. So I really do want you to join it. Unlike a lot of groups out there where there is a lot of bullies and things like that, I'm not allowing any of those sort of comments in here at all. I want it to be just totally positive, an area where people can share without having any so-called prima donnas, going crook at the image or saying things. This is a totally positive site. So I really would love you to join it, guys. You can see the Destinies in here. Would love to get more females involved in all of these groups as well. So please join us there if you haven't. It's just a great site to be involved with. So I really do hope that you can join it. Now, we are in pre-show. I'm going to click over in a minute. If, for instance, you're watching this later on and you don't want to be involved in a long show, and I'm going to tell you now that this is going to be a long show because I've got stacks of stuff to go through with you. Switch off now, guys. I don't want any complaints from people going, oh, your show's too long, it's over 2 hours. Who would watch it over 2 hours? Switch off now. So if you don't want to be involved in the discussion or whatever we're watching now, switch off. I will have a timeline put in later on. So if a story did interest you, then obviously you can skip what you're not interested to and move to that. But it cracks me up when people complain about the show being too long when I put a timeline underneath, and they don't have to watch the show. No one forces them to. I don't want timelines listed on this. I want to talk until basically I've got through whatever we had to go through. And like I said, this is like a group of mates with me, sitting around on a table having a coffee. I'm just about to open up my coffee in a minute. Sitting around having a coffee, talking over some articles, and having a decent chat. I will be opening up the chat itself here, and I'll go through that in a minute to see who's actually on board. And then obviously after each show, after each article, I'm going to open up the chat, and we will have a little bit of time at the end for Q&A as well. So I'll open it up first. Well, actually, before we do that, let me just open up my coffee. I hope there's no... Oh, I nearly showed it. Oh, I'm just about to open up my coffee and put it into my Sony cup. You've got to be careful because this coffee is so hot. It's interesting coffee because it's a little bit malty and quite dark. It's actually quite nice. So let me put this... I'm trying not to show it. Let me put that over there for a minute. So, cheers with the coffee, guys. Lovely day today here in Melbourne. I think it's 27 degrees. Here, 28 degrees at the moment, Celsius, so it's quite warm today. Let me see who's in the chat anyway, before we start the show. So we've got Creative Films was here first. Langston was second. It's Oxium, I think. Philip is here. Langston said back to DS9 in the meantime. Bruce said just about to go to work, missed the live. You can always watch it later, Bruce. Casper saying, where is the money, man? Langston said, editing photos and watching Star Trek. Interesting. Nothing much else to do. Julio said he's made it, so good to see you in here. Mirrorless MY is also here. Chris, hello, David Corona in a coffee cup. Yeah, I'm just drinking coffee, Chris. Julio, cheers from Germany. Casper says, okay, every time you say Sony, you must drink a cup of coffee. I love it. Philip said, shot of Cuban coffee. It's so funny the things you've got to do, honestly. Rod said, I've been watching you for a while. After 30 years using Canon, I picked up an a7 III. Oh, you're going to love that camera, Rob. Tamron 2875 just arrived this week. Thanks for recommendation. Honestly, I've been adoring that lens. I haven't taken it off my camera since I've been doing weddings. It's been staying on my a7 III. And I keep it on the whole day. And on the A9, I'm using the 85 and the 35 1.4 and the 70 to 200. So I am switching between that. You're going to love it. It's such a great combination. Jamie's here as well. Panda's in here. G'day, Panda. Fathom Rocker's here. Ron is also here. Langston said, laugh out loud, right, as the episode of DS9 ended, I love it and plan when a plan comes together. Julian said, what's up, David? Very busy time for me to this time of year. I've got another wedding I'm doing tomorrow. It's a big one tomorrow, around 300 guests, I think. Hi, David. Great to see you here. D. Harlow. Altrix also here. Rob's here from Virginia, USA. Axiom's here. Julian, I got notified. That's weird. Oh, well, at least you did get notified this time. Hey, David, Florida, only 10 p.m. here. Tony's also here. Ron Flares, for your phone, got the notification. That's great. Like I said, a lot of people weren't getting them. Richard's also here. Rad is saying hi. Rick is also saying greetings. Michelle, good to see you here, Michelle. Well, I love it when some females pop in because we just don't get many. I'd love a lot more of you on here. Chris said, hello, everyone. Smart Shot said hi. Julian says, love the Facebook page. I know, how good is that Facebook page? It's so positive. It really is. It's a great Facebook group. Jay Allen says, hello from Tennessee. Hello, David, Grand Rapids, Michigan. I just love how everyone's popping around from the world. I really do love that aspect of this. Johnson City said, hello, friends. YouTube actually notified me this time. I swear YouTube keeps switching up their algorithm to keep from paying out as much to crowd. I don't know why, honestly, that it stops notifying people. Carl says, here from LA with my youngest daughter, a yearbook photographer. Oh, that's great, Carl. Too bad nobody uses Facebook anymore. Where else are we? I hate it when it jumps down like that. Rick said he received the notification as well. That's fantastic. Love a thumbs up too, guys, if you could give me one. I know a stack already have. Please make this a 3-hour show. It's going to be a long one today because I've got stacks to talk to you about, and I'm not going to rush through it. If people don't want to watch it, switch off. Peace from Canada. Mike's here. Tyler's here. Eric's here. We'll give it another minute or so, and then we'll start. Johnson said, hell no complaining. Let's go 4 hours. I've got a wedding to edit after this. And also get prepared for tomorrow's wedding. Sony taking too darn long. I know. I'm going to talk about that shortly. Interesting brand of coffee. I know. It is interesting, isn't it? It's a bit frothy. I don't know what's going on. Hello from Portland. Shay Sagan is here. Don't become dizzy. I hope I do. Yeah, if you have too much coffee, you can become dizzy, though. Sagan, I know what you're saying. Dan said, Dave, make it later while I can enjoy a good wine. And that's fine, Dan. Ken said, hi, here from Michigan. Melbourne Drone Services. G'day, mate. How you going? Gerard says, cheers all the way from Burbank. Fathom Rocker must be Irish coffee. Is that a cold? Yeah, it's a cold brew of coffee, Randy. Yep. It's a cold coffee. Very malty. It's very nice. Jason said, woo. Aka's saying that. Ray said last. Pedro saying hi. Hi from East Oakland. Dwayne is saying hi from San Francisco. Coffee wink wink. Yep. Java said cheers, David. Paul from Thailand. And I better keep going. I won't go for too much more. Raymond says love the Facebook too. I know it's such a great Facebook group that it really is good. We come to you because you're a magnetic personality. Oh, thanks so much. Hi from 3,000 feet on a plane, James. Woohoo! Where are you going to, James? Jace said, hi from Tacoma, Washington. Jamie said, got notifications too. Well, perhaps they fixed it. So it's going to be interesting to see if they actually have fixed it. Lena said, listening from my car. Thanks for joining us, Lena. Sid's, hello from San Francisco. We're almost up there now. JP said, San Diego checking in. Miralist says, hello from New York. EJ Adams says, time to go to work. Have to chat later. I'll watch the replay. And Billy says, hello, David. Thank you all so much. Mike has also said, just cracked a coffee open for the show. I'm so glad because that's what I've cracked the stubby open. I mean, the coffee. Now, I do have stacks to talk to you today, guys. I'm going to switch over to the show in a minute, so I'll put the Oastler Images sign up just so I know where to start the timeline from. So we'll start that now. We've got a stack watching. Please appreciate a thumbs up if I could get it, guys, because it just makes other people watch that don't know I'm online. Let me switch over to the Oastler Images sign, and then we'll get started on the show. Good afternoon, everyone. I've just cracked a coffee with everyone. You all know I'm drinking coffee now. I'm not having other things because you can be blocked on YouTube, so I'm just having coffee. Very nice. It's a lovely warm day today. I think it's 28 degrees at the moment, Celsius. Really beautiful. I've got another wedding tomorrow to do. This is my peak season now, so it's absolutely nuts. But I'm really enjoying it. I've got a very high-end wedding tomorrow with around 300 guests, I think. It's a massive one, which is going to be a really interesting one. We're going to go all around Melbourne through gardens and through the Melbourne city itself. So really looking forward to doing that shoot tomorrow. Having an absolute ball at the moment. Then I've got a concert that I've got to photograph on Monday as well. And then obviously another wedding next weekend as well. So I've got stacks going on at the moment. I've got stacks and stacks of news to go through with you today. This is going to be a long show. I'm warning you now. If you don't want to watch it, no whinging. Goodbye. So please don't put messages down below saying, this is a 2-hour show. I don't want to watch it. If you don't want to watch it, switch off. Goodbye. This is like a group of mates sitting around having a chat over coffee or having a drink. I'm drinking coffee. So it is going to be a long one. I am going to go through each individual story. And then I'm going to open up the chat for each individual story rather than go to the end because it gets a bit awkward switching through that way. If you do want to get my attention, make sure you put the @DavidOastler that you can see here. It will just mean that I will see it and I won't miss that question, I would hope anyway. Sometimes the questions get so long though that I do skip some and there's nothing I can do about that. If I do skip it, just put it in the comments down below. I always read them and I'll always, if I don't answer it, at least, I'll put a love heart to know that I've read there. But leave that down below as well. Jonathan's just said, David, I've been watching your YouTube videos for a while now and love them. But this is the first time I've been able to catch one of your live stream. Well, that's great, Jonathan. Thank you so much for joining us live. Altric says, I'll watch till I fall asleep. Yeah, it's going to be a long one tonight, Altric. So let's get started because we've got stacks and stacks to go over. If I don't start quickly, we're going to be here for 5 hours. So I want to get over to it immediately if I can. Just a quick plug. Guys, please join the Photography Videography School. I really do want you guys to pop over onto that site. This is for you. I've created this site for you. It's somewhere where you can share your work, share your Instagram feeds, all that sort of stuff. By the way, I'm going to put my Instagram in because please share me there and I do immediately share you back. So it's Oastler. So if you go onto Instagram and share me, follow me there, I will immediately follow you back. So it's just a great way of promoting it. Now that Facebook site is fantastic. It's a very positive site. I'd like you to share your web pages, share your Instagram feed, share any videos you create. It's a great positive site that I don't put any restrictions apart from having basically wankers in there, we call them. Someone that's going to start criticizing, I'm going to block you and dump you straight out of there. I want this to be a positive site where if you're new, you can just ask for critique and it'll be a positive critique. Nothing that's going to be aggressive or condescending, something like that. I want it to be this to be a totally positive site. If anything on there I see is not being positive, I'm going to boot you out of there, because I don't want this to be a site like a lot of others where it becomes a bitch fest and no one's happy in there. I really want this to be a positive, beautiful site that people can share without being worried about being abused or have someone pull their work completely to pieces without being really constructive. And when I mean constructive, I want people to be positive in those in their constructive criticism. All right, so let's get started, because we've got stacks to go through today, and I wanted to go through this first because I'm going to talk about first what Sony Alpha Rumors has shared here, and then I'll talk about what DP Review have put on, because it's a bit more detailed, and then I'll open it up to questions to see what you guys think about what's been put on here, because I noticed that when they've basically confirmed that a new A7S is going to come out, and I'll talk about this in a minute, and also APS-C is going to get a little bit of love, which is what it needs. But I'll go through this, and then I'll open up something else in a bit more detail to show you what he basically has said. But he basically has said that Sony knew about the full-frame competition mirrorless coming up. Now, I'm only going to read the headlines here, and then I'll go onto this other page so you can see it in a bit more detail, and we can discuss it in full there. There's also one there about going medium format as well. APS-C lenses has also been mentioned. APS-C cameras, weather sealing, Sony SD card choice, and about the A7S III. And also about the Sony AI strategy. And just to sum up what they've said here, basically, is Sony confirmed our rumours about the professional APS-C cameras are spot on. The Sony A7S III will meet the requests of customers and even exceed them. New APS-C lenses coming, hooray. And new artificial features like animal AIF are going to be implemented on current cameras. So that's on the Sony Alpha Room, and I'll put these links down below for you to have a look at later. But I noticed on DP Review they put it in quite a bit more detail. You can watch this if you like, the video. Like I said, I'll put the links down there as well. But basically, he's saying, I want to go through these and then briefly discuss it with you, and then we'll open it up to a chat. But he's saying here, is there any customer group that you feel you could reach more effectively? And they're basically saying they want to create products for all of the customers that are actually out there. And basically they're saying that recently we launched products for sports photographers, and that was the release with the A9 and the 400mm, for instance, or the 100 to 400 has been sort of for sports and also for wildlife shooters. So they're basically saying in there that they want to basically target these new cameras to everyone. So they don't want to concentrate on just one group of photographers. They want to open it up to all of them. And they're saying here, what is Sony doing that's unique? Well, that's where they're starting to talk about the full frame sensor. And basically, I'm not going to keep this up all the time, because, I mean, you can read it when you look at the article yourselves. But basically, they're saying that the A9 is their most unique thing that they've actually developed. And if you read that article, it's talking about that stacked sensor being almost like a Formula One engine of a car, because it is that advanced. But they're also saying that isn't just the only thing, that there's also other things. Like they're saying, if you had this amazing engine in the car, you also need good tyres, good chassis and things like that. And that's why they're saying also that you'd need good lenses, good software, a good interface, ergonomics, things like that, good weather sealing. But they are saying at the moment that the unique thing that has been done has been that A9 sensor, which really, if you look at it, no one has even been able to come close to at the moment. It's still, even though that's over 12 months old, there's still nothing in the marketplace that is anything like that sensor that's out there. It is totally unique in what you've got in that regard in full frame. There's nothing there like that, and he did mention that. He also said, how do competitive full-frame mirrorless cameras affect your planning? And if you read the article, he actually says in there that it didn't really affect them at all, because he's saying what they're worried about. They're not worried about the competition. They're worried about basically caring for the customers. And I thought that was a really good thing to say. Cheers to, I must have another coffee. He's actually saying on there that Sony aren't concentrating so much on the customers. They knew that there was announcements coming. And if you look at this next, and I'll sort of put these two together, he said, is there anything that surprised you about the announcement from your competitors? And basically, if you look here, he's saying that I care about the customers. If customers need more functionality or more quality, we'll try to do it. And so this is an interesting thing in the fact that they are trying to listen to what customers are asking. And this is why I think things have been held back a little bit too. I did believe earlier that there would have been announcements earlier, and I think because of these new announcements that have been out, that Sony have now decided to hold back a little bit, and that's what I think is happening at the moment. They're listening to what customers are saying, and hopefully they'll be able to add all of those things into the latest cameras that are coming out. And it is nice to hear that they say we care about customers. If customers need more functionality or quality, then we'll do it. He's also saying down here that was there any announcements from your competitors? No, not really. I already predicted Canon and Nikon would enter the market. And he's saying there's things like lenses, image quality, speed, battery life. And he's saying there that some of our competitors especially struggle with that one. And he's talking about the battery life. Because if you look at the latest announcements, the Nikon and the Canon, the battery life doesn't match what Sony have announced on their latest cameras with the Z battery. So Sony really have upped their game in that side of things. Like I said, I'm only using one battery per wedding basically now, which is incredible. If I'm doing video, then I might use two, but I'm only using one for stills basically for the whole day. And that's incredible. Those batteries are unbelievable, and they just last forever. And that's just a great thing. So he's saying that obviously the new cameras have suffered in that regard in battery life is just not the same as what Sony have offered. And I think that's one of the letdowns with the X-T3, the Fuji. The battery life still sucks. So it's a pity they couldn't have upped their game for that aspect of it, even though that's just an amazing camera. The battery life still lets it down, and that's what we had when we had the A6500 and the A7 IIs, or the A7R2. We had that problem with the batteries, and you had to carry multiple batteries. So, you know, that's an issue there. It said, do you see any customer demand for sensor larger than full frame? And I am going to talk about this a little bit later on, but he actually says in here, right now, there are a lot of things that still have to do with full frame sensors. So he's saying they can still develop their full frame sensors much more at the moment than worrying about having medium format sensors, for instance. And the interesting thing there is that they do have the sensors for that, and I'll talk about that shortly, but Sony already have amazing full medium format sensors that they could put into a camera. But clearly, talking about the way they are there, they don't want to move into that area yet. It might be something that they do down the track, but I think they're still concentrating on really achieving the ultimate in their full frame and also their APS-C cameras, which are still upcoming. But I don't think we're going to see a medium format camera anytime in the near future, looking at what they said in that article. The next thing down, it says, we've been enjoying using the 24mm 1.4 G Master lens. Do you have any plans to create more smaller lenses in this lineup? And he says, of course, yes. Some customers want small size as well as high quality, so that's one of our targets. Initially, when that lens was announced, I wasn't really that excited about it. I mean, I said to a number of people, Gerald, for instance, who often comes in here, I actually wasn't even thinking about that lens. But after seeing the reviews and looking at the weight of that lens, that's the thing that got me about that lens, actually, was the weight of it. As you know, the only reason why I haven't really gone to the G Master lenses is because I don't want to lug around the heavy lenses. And seeing the weight that they've done on that lens, it is a really amazing lens that I could use on a gimbal or something like that. So I probably will get the 24mm 1.4 down the line to stick on the gimbal. I've been loving the, I haven't got it in here. I've been loving, oh yes I have. I've been loving using the 55, and I do adore using this on a gimbal because it's so small and so light, but sometimes it's a little bit tight. You know, it is a little bit tight in some aspects. So if I could switch between, say, using this and the 24 on a gimbal would also be amazing. I mean, I can also use the 24 to the 28 to 75 Tamron as well, because that's really light as well. So that works really great on a gimbal as well. But I may go down the track of getting that 24 G Master as well, because it seems to be such a good quality lens, and it also is very light. So I may get that down the track. And obviously they're going to go down that avenue more by the look of it, getting small size and high quality, which is great. And I think that's one of the things that I really love about the Sony system, is when you keep things really small. And I love that part of it. Having the massive lenses on and stuff like that, I'm just not that interested anymore due to it, hurting my back in a wedding day and things like that. So that's really interesting that he said that. It says, do you have any plans to release new APS-C lenses? He said, yes, APS-C is a big market for us. And it is. It's one of the best sellers still on B&H. If you look at that, the A6500 and A6300 still sells well. Recently, most of our new lenses have been full frame, but APS-C remains a key target. And he said, what are the advantages? And he's obviously said mobility and ease of use. And he's also talking down here about what is the long-term strategy for APS-C. And they're saying, will you ever see another Nex 7? Because that had the dual dials. And I would love to see that. And I think that's what you're going to see down the line. You can see a picture here of basically how you've got your dual dials. I think what you're going to see there is for the normal APS-C, that's why I think they're going to go to the A7 body series. And I hope they do keep all the dials and not pull one out. But it's really interesting in the fact that they're saying that they are going to give it some love, particularly this statement which says, do you think APS-C could be a professional format for Sony in the future? And he said professionals have many cameras. Of course, full frame is usually their main camera, but for a long time they've used APS-C as a second camera. So of course APS-C cameras for professionals are or must exist. So that's a great thing that he said there too. So it looks like APS-C is definitely going to get some love. And he said there, do you have a different design approach for APS-C and full frame lenses? No, our strategy is unique. One single mount, for example, future APS-C customers might use our G Master 24. And he said, do a lot of APS-C customers buy full frame lenses? And I think this might be the way that you have to look at it in the future. I've obviously got the A6500 and the A6300, and I don't really buy APS-C lenses anymore. I just tend now to buy full frame and stick those full frame lenses on the APS-C cameras. Now, the benefit of doing that is I can use it on the APS-C and I can also use it on the full frame. So I get the best of both worlds, and I think that's a really great feature about it. Yes, I know the full frame lenses are larger and they're also more expensive. But the problem is, if you use APS-C, if you buy APS-C, it sort of limits you going to full frame. You can use it in Super 35 mode, but if you're dealing with it on an A7 III, for instance, you get about 11 megapixel image, and it may not be enough. If you want to go for an A7R III, well, that's not so bad because you get 18, but you do lose that full frame look. So I think the best thing you can do really is to buy full frame lenses, like even the 35, I haven't got the 35 here, like even the 35 f2.8, those lenses are really nice and small. The 55 are really nice and small, and they're great lenses to stick on a APS-C camera. And then if you do decide then to move up to full frame, well, then you also have got full frame lenses that you can use on both systems. Because I'm still undecided. I'm probably going to wait and see what is announced with the A7000 and then also the A7S III, and then choose one of those cameras to purchase. I don't need one of each. I really only need one at this stage. So I'm probably going to see which one suits me better, and then I'll buy that camera. So I probably will wait for both announcements to be done and then make a decision which way I'll go. But either way, even if I did get the A7000, I would still be using full frame glass on that camera. And I think, like I said, if you're looking at it, he said there that a lot of APS-C users buy the full frame cameras. It also talks about weather sealing, and he said, yes, of course, we've heard that many customers want better weather sealing. We're trying. So I think you are going to see that the weather sealing on all newer releases is probably going to be a little bit better. I don't think I need... another thing I'd like to say there is talking about memory cards. He's talking about, at the moment, UHS-2 memory cards are fast enough for anything that Sony are producing. But he said, obviously, if we're going to get to 8K 30p video, they're going to have to look at changing their card format. But at the moment, just having the SD UHS-2 cards are more than ample for what's being shot. And he said, why do your cameras have 2 card slots? And that's pretty obvious what he's saying there about that, it's for redundancy and backup and things like that. I don't think I need to go anymore. Just down here, I'd like to go through, what do you existing A7S customers want to see improved? And he said the obvious things down here are 4K. Where was it? It was there. 4K 60p, 2.2, 10-bit, and of course more battery power, increased AF accuracy, and many things. But the interesting thing is that he said there is that he actually said that with the A7S, he said basically it's coming and they're working on it, but he said he wants to exceed expectations for that, and that's why I think it's been held back. I've got a feeling that, remember, Nikon have announced their cameras already, so we know now for sure what Nikon have already announced. They've got the Z6 and the Z6 and the Z7. I always say Z, it's an Australian thing. So they've got both of those cameras already announced. So they've already shown their hand, and knowing how Nikon works, you're probably going to have to wait another 2 years before they update those cameras. It may be 3, but it'll be a while anyway, I would think, unless they change their thinking. Canon have announced the EOS-R, obviously, but that's their lower-ended model. They still have said all along that they want to release a higher-ended model. So we're still waiting to see what Canon have on that regard. And I think that perhaps Sony may be waiting a little bit to see what happens in that regard as well before they announce this camera. And they can still change a few things. They may not be able to change much in body because they're sort of designed a long way out. But like I said, you would be amazed, I've said this previously, you would be amazed what they can add in firmware if they want to. And this is one of the really interesting things. Another thing that interests me when you're looking at what they're saying in there is that they've actually said that the AIF is going to be available, this new AI, on current cameras. And that's an interesting thing where he mentioned that. And I can't remember where I read that. I did read that somewhere where he was talking about that it was going to be available on current cameras. I'm just trying to see. Oh, yeah, it's here. Let's have a look. He actually said down here that about the Sony AI strategy, and this is a really interesting comment. Currently, we are planning upgrades to existing models and, of course, future models that will contain new AI features. So I take that, and I wasn't sure about how this would work, but I'm wondering if this is going to have the AI, the animal IAF, for instance, whether they're going to offer that as an upgrade in firmware to, say, the A9, the A7 III, and the A7R III. I don't think it'll come down below those cameras because I don't think they're going to have the processing power probably to do it. But it looks like we might see some of those features added to existing cameras, which, please, Sony, that would be amazing. If you could do that, give some love to existing models, and obviously future models will have better chips and things, and they will add more AI in the future. And what they're talking about with this AI is to be basically trying to work out, now you probably will still be able to override it obviously, but it's talking about being able to grab focus for you, like perfect focus, like tracking, so you don't have to worry at all about framing and things like this. And that's the interesting thing, how this is going to work. Better IAF, even though the IAF is amazing, it'll give you better IAF. Things like that, like having the animal IAF. So we're looking at a future where the camera is going to start taking over a lot of the focusing options that you've got, and you have to let a little bit of control go. And that's one of the interesting things that people find when you move over to Sony. Like my wife, for instance, Kerry, still struggles a little bit with letting the camera decide what to focus on. I'm completely comfortable with that now, and I like with the A9 and the A7 III, I am completely comfortable with letting the camera decide what to focus on. If I need to override it, I can very quickly. But it does work for me now, and I know some of the caveats and whatever, how it won't work. But I do now let that work, and I'm using IAF all the time, and I'm registering the bride's face and the groom's face. And so it will pick them out of a crowd. I'm sometimes using center focus if I need to do that, but it's still working with face detect and things like that. And I do love using those automatic controls. Kerry still struggles a little bit, and she still likes to think more like in the Nikon days and controlling using flexible spot and moving the spot around. I have got her recently, though, to using the focus on the back of the screen, which helps her a little bit. And she's starting to let go of it a little bit, but she's still not really that comfortable with it, where I am. And clearly, from what you read in these articles, Sony are going to have more and more features where the camera is going to take control, and you'll have to let go of that and let the camera decide what it's going to do. And it's just such an exciting time to be with Sony. So even though their announcements have been held back, it looks like we're in for a really exciting time with what they're going to announce. Now, I think looking at announcements-wise, we still may see the a7000 this year, but clearly if you're looking at what he's saying on the article about the a7s, we're not going to see that this year, I don't think. And they're talking about NAB next year. So we're in for a big wait, and that's probably just the announcement maybe next year at NAB. So I think we're really in for a bit of a wait at the moment. I knew we wouldn't get it before the end of the year because of the new EVF that obviously will go in the a7s 3. But if you listen to what he's talking about, that they want to exceed expectations, even though I'd love Sony to take my money now, and I really would, because I really need another video camera, I think it might be worthwhile waiting if they do exceed our expectations completely on what they give us with this camera. This may be like the a7 III, how much that shocked people. They may do exactly the same thing with the a7s 3. So let's keep our fingers crossed anyway. So I'm going to open it up to the chat because I want to see what you guys have to say about this. So I'm going to come down and see if I can find anything that's related to that. So when is the a7000 coming out? Like I've said, we don't know. I'm hoping sometime this year. We may see that one. Pure Blonde Coffee. I'm just reading the Pure Blonde Coffee. Cheers. Coffee. So I think we might see an a7 possibly sometime this year, but I don't think we're going to see the a7s 3. Should I buy the Sony a7 original? I wouldn't, no. I wouldn't buy the a7 original at all. I'd get the a6500 rather than getting the a7 original. Or I'd just wait, but I wouldn't be buying that camera now, no. Jack has said, did Sony actually announce the Sony a7 coming out this month? No, they haven't. We've seen nothing like that at all. John says, first live stream looks like fun. Good to see you in here, John. Philip said, the a6000 shooter here, currently doing work as a production photographer, would like to explore more branches. I have 2 FE lenses. Would I be better to wait for the a7s 3 or the a7 III? If you're doing video, if you do fusion, I would wait. But if you're doing just stills, I would definitely just jump on the a7 III. It's an incredible camera. And that is probably the best fusion camera in the world at the moment, full frame that's out there. Sagan says you have to open that group. You're talking about the Facebook one, Sagan? It's photography. If you search this, I'll put it in the comments. You just have to search it in Facebook. You'll find it. It's the photography and videography group. I've just posted it in there. Just search for that and it'll come up. Sam said, hi. Venom said that guy looks like his family is being held hostage. Who's that? AP Studio said, so much of an upgrade, but things we can find in other cameras. Good. Are you talking about waiting for the new cameras? Langston said he isn't scared of the competition. He is scared of what happened to Canon and Nikon with subpar releases. And you may be correct. There's certainly nothing in those new cameras that have scared Sony, and that's for sure. The only thing that would have scared Sony is the Fuji X-T3. Is an amazing camera. If you've watched Max Ura's video about it, he does really rave about that camera. I think he mentioned the only thing was the battery was a major problem, being so small, and there was something else. I can't remember what it was, but he did rave about that camera. The Fuji X-T3 has really hit the ball out of the park. I mean, it really has. It's added 4K 60p. It's got 10-bit. You've got your log in there. Amazing autofocus for video. They really have upped their game in that camera. It's also got 400 megabits, which Sony tops out at 100. So they really have done amazing work with that camera. Now, remember, it is probably using the Sony sensor, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. So there's no reason why Sony can't answer that, and I'm sure they will, and they'll probably better it. but we just have to wait. But it certainly is an exciting time. That's why I'm saying if you were in the market for a new A6500 or 300, I'll be waiting to see what happens. That camera is about $1,500 US, so Sony have to announce their camera at a similar price range. So it gives you an idea about what cost we're sort of probably going to be looking at for that camera. Remember at the time when the A7 III was announced, that is still very cost effective. So I'm sure the a7000 is going to be a good priced, camera. Mike said articulating screen. We don't know, Mike, and I'm really hoping that's right. And also Jonathan said if they care about the customers, then they should add a flip out screen. And I really hope they do. Manny said care about the customer as a shot at Canon and Nikon, and you may be right. D. Harlow says, I don't care a bit about the flip screen. It just doesn't help my shooting at all. For those who want it, I wish you had it available. It's just there and I just can't ignore it. Now remember, if it's a flip out screen and you don't want a flip out screen, just leave the thing closed. And then it's just like what you're looking at with a normal camera. The point is, I suppose some people said the issue might be that you can't do this with it. But I really believe that the people that don't want a flip out screen just have to get over that aspect of it, because remember these cameras, you've got to look at it, there's really no such thing, and I know some people are going to be upset about me saying this, but there's really no such thing almost anymore as just a photography camera or a video camera. People want both. And what I'm saying to you is that as kids start to grow up, and you look at how people use the iPhone, they're always shooting video, they're always shooting stills. The days of having just a stills camera and a video camera are going to be gone. If you go down that line, if any company keeps going down that line, they're going to go broke. Because the youth of today is not going to want a camera that just does stills or just does video. They're going to want a fusion camera. They're going to want a camera that does both. That's how you've got to think. So if you're thinking down the line of you just want a stills camera, you're going to be upset eventually, because there's no way that they're going to target you in the marketplace in the future, because people are going to be doing more and more video. Charles said 14mm 0.95 would be awesome. It would be, wouldn't it? Michael said that's a bummer about medium format cameras. As a professional fashion glamour shooter, I would love a medium format Sony. They already have the sensors. Would be easy to put one in a Sony body. They'd have to change the mount size though. This would be the issue, Ray. That wouldn't fit in the current mount size. And I think the thing is that basically at the moment they're struggling to keep up with even the A7 III. And this is the thing, I'd prefer them to really get like the A7S III done, perhaps a new A9, all those sort of cameras first before they start thinking about going to a medium format camera. Now remember, the marketplace for that isn't that big. Ray says, that is what I liked about the Sony lenses. They want to make them smaller and lighter, I know, and I think that's a great thing. G'day, Oreo, good to see you in here. Ray said, I remember filling out a questionnaire from Sony asking what I wanted in a camera. Yes, I did one as well. Haz says, I got one for this stream, but yes, hadn't got any for the past couple of streams. Are you talking about the bell icon? Carl says, the stream started 28 minutes ago, so there will only be another hour left. Carl says, 8K. What do you want to see improved? Everything. Fathom Rocker said, and a flip out screen so everyone will stop whinging. And I've just discussed that though, Fathom Rocker, that I do think the future definitely is in fusion. And like I said, you may not agree with that, but remember, if you want to stick to still photography, you can just use that camera as a still camera. But I definitely think you've got to get out of that. Now I know, like I said, some people were whinging that the fold out screens won't flip up at the back the same way, but you just can't have everything, and this is the thing. And I think that Sony, I honestly believe if Sony brought out an a6500 with a flip-out screen, it would just sell like hotcakes. It would go berserk. And you've got to think about that aspect of it. More people want cameras that will do both stills and video. And what I'm saying to you is if you want your business to grow, you have to start learning video, guys. And it is a serious thing that you're going to get left behind if you don't do that. If you don't start learning to shoot video and stills, in the future, you're going to find it very, very hard to get work because it's the way that the young kids now are doing everything. They're doing everything with stills and video. Hi, and Brown's here. Sorry I'm late. Please start over from the beginning. Charles said, I heard Canon is going to release 2 more cameras. Maybe this is why Sony is dragging their feet. And I've got a feeling that could be the case as well. They may be waiting to see what Canon release in their next camera first. They are trying to cram tons of high-end features in to beat Canon by a large margin. Carl said balloon focus. Let me just get rid of this Jaden comment, whatever it was. I don't know what it was. Where were we up to? Oops. Joanne said, David, I'm just jumping in. Could you tell me when they are going to release the A7S? We're saying now, my thought is probably NAB, and that's what others that I've been talking to are saying now, that it'll be NAB in spring US next year, Joanne. So it's going to be a while, I think. We don't know with the a7000 though. That could be released at any time, but the A7S is going to be sometime next year, I think, spring. Nice coffee. Tim said if they upgrade Animal IAF to current models, should make sense as it would just be an algorithm update. Leaf said, he said Animal IAF will come to current cameras. Yeah, well, he mentioned it. Well, he didn't say it. He said we're planning upgrades to existing models, so we're hoping that's the case. No price yet, Sunai, on the A7S III. No, we don't know. I've put that there if you want to join that Facebook group. Just search that in Facebook and it'll come up. William saying hi from Dubbo. Oreo said, I bet Sony will not give Animal IF to current cameras. I hope they do, Oreo. I really hope they do. Philip said, hopefully they'll bring back time-lapse. I know that was terrible how they took that out. Rob said, Animal IAF will probably be an upgrade on A9 and cameras released after the A9. Doubt A6300 and A7 II models will get it. I don't think the A6300, even the A6500 will get it. My thinking is the cameras that possibly could get this are the A7 III, the A7R III, and the A9. They'd be the cameras that I would guess that would get it. I would definitely think that the A9 would get it. That it may be a processor thing, and it may be that the A9 is the only camera currently that could have the processing power to do it. We'll have to wait and see. But it could be that they just offer that on the A9. But we'll have to wait and see. William said, greeting from Antigua. Billy said, I think Sony wants to knock the blocks off everyone with any new releases. I don't know whether to wait for the A7000 or just go with the A7 III with these release dates. Billy, if you need the camera now, I would go for the A7 III. You can't go wrong with buying that camera. If you're not in a hurry, I'd wait. But it looks like for a full frame camera now, you're going to have to wait until spring US next year. You're going to have to wait till next year. Whenever NAB is that March or I can't remember. Someone might be able to let me know. But I think it's going to be a while before we see the A7S III, definitely. I don't think it's even going to be announced this year. It'll probably be announced at NAB, and then we'd have a period of a few weeks until it's actually officially able to be purchased. What else have we got? Rob's Travels said, built-in time-lapse would be great, I agree. William said, have ordered the Fuji. And I don't blame you, William. That's a great little camera. Langston said, wow, that Fuji sounds pretty crazy. Yeah, it is. It's a great camera. But again, the only issue, like I said, I wouldn't go down that line, I don't think anyway, because I want to have that ability to go full frame. And this is like I say to you, that one of the benefits of having the Sony a6500 is that you can use those lenses on the full frame cameras. The problem is if you go Fuji, you're locked into Fuji. And that's the issue about that. You can't use those Fuji lenses on a full frame camera. So even those lenses are amazing, and they are great lenses, that's the only thing you've got to be aware of, is that you're going to have that basically until you sell that to move into something else. At least if you buy Sony, you can move up to full frame, particularly if you buy full frame lenses. What else have we got? Hope you like Pick said, what's AL3 said, I meant for the A7 for beginners. I still wouldn't buy an A7 camera though now. I would get an A6 500. I wouldn't get that. The focusing is no good. It's just such a dated camera now. Even the A7 II I wouldn't probably buy now. I'd get an A6 500 over that. Hope you like Pick said, hi David, would love to see an update on the A7 III, so could do in time lapse. I know, I really wish they would bring that out. I don't understand why they took time lapse out. It was silly. Oreo said Fuji X-T3 does not have IBIS, and that's what. That's what he said was the other thing. Max Europe said IBIS was the issue, and also the battery life was terrible. And the X-T3, I don't know why they left IBIS out. There's got to be a reason, seeing their other camera that they recently brought had IBIS in it. But they did leave that out, and they may have left that out to give them something to put into the next camera. Yeah, but it is an issue. If you're shooting video, you have to put that on a gimbal, so that is a problem. And also the battery, the crappy battery. I'm just going to delete this Jaden Richardson because he's saying some things that I don't like, obviously. Hide user. All right, let's keep going. Mike said, I suspect the A7000 will have an articulating screen, so will the A7S will be like all the others. Well, we'll have to wait and see. So it is interesting anyway. Where were we up to? We'll have to keep moving on, otherwise we are going to be here for 5 hours. What is your IG account name? It's D Oastler. So it's just as you see in the name there, but lowercase, and it's just D Oastler. I'll stick it down the bottom again just so you can see it. Please add me, I'll add you back. James said maybe 8K 30 frames. Maybe he said that because it will be in the A7S III. I wouldn't think so at this stage, James. I don't think we're ready for 8K 30 frames yet. That could be obviously the camera after that. I think they'll be pushing to get the 4K 60p, that may even go 4K 120. I think 4K 120 would be much better than going 8K 30 frames per second. That will happen in the future, but I just don't think we need that yet. And there's also, obviously, the megabits have to be upped as well. Haz says, you are correct about the upcoming generations wanting a Fusion camera. Just look at all the young YouTubers, vloggers that help to promote certain cameras to their audience. Everyone now is into video and stills. Like I said, everyone is coming up with that iPhone type culture. So we have to change our thinking. They definitely want to capture new, younger camera users who want to do both photos and video simply because they're already used to it. And they are. That's the thing. I agree. Fathom Rocker said, videos is so much fun. I'm starting to enjoy it more than stills. I love it too. Sam said, thumbs up, everyone. Thank you so much for saying that, Sam. I would love if everyone could give me a thumbs up. Mel said, I don't think Sony is dragging their feet. I think they have a breakthrough in some tech that still needs some more time for R&D. Let's just wait. And like I said, I think I'm just getting impatient because I need another video camera, and I don't want to go out and buy a stopgap. This is the thing I'm trying to avoid. I could go out and say buy the Fuji, for instance, but then it doesn't have the fold-out screen. It doesn't have IBIS. I got rid of the GH5 because it didn't have the focusing, so that's an issue there. There's sort of no camera at the moment that has what I need in the 4K 60 area. So it's a problem. The Canon and the Nikon don't have dual cards, so that's an issue with me as well. I'd probably prefer the Canon over the Nikon because it has the fold-out screen, but then it has the 1.8 crop. You just can't win at the moment. This is the problem for me, and this is why I'm holding off. And I'm just getting a little impatient. I've just got to try and be a little bit patient because it's going to happen when it happens, I suppose. Label said, I got a Sony today with the MC11 and tested the Canon 85 1.2 and it's great. Thanks for letting me know, Laville, because that's certainly something that interests me in getting in the future. Mel said, I don't think the Sony is dragging their feet. Oh, no, I just did that. I wish Sony made a 28 to 70 f2 similar to Canon. I love that lens and cannot adapt it to Sony since it's the RF mount. Yeah, that does seem a beautiful lens, but it's very big and heavy and expensive though. Feeny said, Fathom Rocker wouldn't mind looking at getting into video. Who do you recommend to check out? Well, What else have we got? Fathom Rocker said, I suspect the RF mount is coming. It may come in the future. I'm not sure, though, whether Canon will allow it, but we'll have to wait and see. Oh, one interesting thing too, just to go back to, Sony did mention about adaptive lenses in there too. He actually said that they licensed the lenses. Where did I read that? I better go back to that because I did want to mention that to you actually. Where was it that he mentioned that? Oh, here we go. He actually said here, can you describe your relationship with third-party lens manufacturers? And he said, we have a contract. So they get a contract with Sony. And if a lens manufacturer wants to create E-mount lenses, they apply to Sony. We then disclose the specifications to the manufacturer. Sony does not approve lens designs. We just disclose the lens mount specification. So that's how that works. But they must have some versions of that because obviously the Tamron, for instance, can update the firmware inside the lens and the Sigma can't. So it's interesting where that falls down, but clearly they have a contract with Sony, therefore they are fully supporting the third-party lenses. So that was an interesting discussion as well. We need to move on in a minute, otherwise we're going to be here forever. What else have we got? G'day, Photomiak is in here as well. Photomiak said, no IBIS is not the end of the world, people. Lenses can have IBIS and you should be shooting professional videos on some sort of grip anyway. Yeah, I agree with you in one aspect there though, but I have found that now that I'm shooting Fusion Photomiak, I'm not following that all the time because sometimes I haven't got the time to grab my gimbal and also the camera at the same time. I may be just doing something spontaneously that happens and then being able to just press the record button on the Sony cameras and hand hold it, which I've shown before when I've captured dance things and stuff like that, really does make a big difference. You can hand hold things. Now, for instance, if you look at the GH5, that is like having a tripod. You do not need to have a tripod if you're doing that on with the GH5 stabilization, that tripod mode. In-camera stabilization, if you're using lenses that haven't got stabilization, does make a big difference. And if you're also dealing with a camera that has in-body stabilization and lens stabilization, they work together and you get better stabilization. So I tend now to do that all the time, Photomiak. I do actually do hand-holding video and the results are amazing. It's incredible what you can get with a IS stabilized camera. So I don't always have videos on some sort of a grip, not the way I'm shooting doing Fusion. James said, Creative Films is now future. Oh, I'm not sure what that means. What else have we got? Oops, let me come down. We've jumped. Let me go down to these ones that have marked it. Before we move on to the next story. Joe said Canon will only release a slightly improved model next year, maybe an EOS-R2 with 2 card slots. It's going to be interesting to see what they do bring out. Creative Film says, would love to see an a7s III to have cinema 4K up to 60-bit. 60p, I mean, 10-bit 422 and 200 to 400 megabits. Michelle said, seriously, Sony needs to up their bit rate. Image can come apart pretty quickly. Yeah, it does if you do high-end, editing. Yes, I agree. Has said, I loved your recent behind-the-scenes video. It's such a wonderful video that shows how humble and passionate you are about your business. Respect. And you know, the interesting thing is, I did talk about that with Ben. We're actually talking about this morning, Has. And the interesting thing is that I said there, it's interesting that I'm trying to show, the easiest thing for me would be to not show those videos at all and just concentrate more on gear reviews and everything else. So I get far more reviews and likes and things like that from doing hardware reviews or rumors and things like that. But I don't want to go down that avenue. I still want to be showing how I am a full working photographer. Now, that wedding was a paid wedding. So that was a full-on paid wedding. I asked her if we could do that on the day, and the thing was, Gino, who filmed it for me, is going to give them some video for free. So they got something out of it for free, and she was rapt. She loves photography. She actually bought a Canon 5D Mark IV just before the wedding, actually. So she loved photography, and she said to me the most important thing for her was the photography on the day. She didn't really care about anything else. She just wanted beautiful photos. So she was rapt when I told her that I was going to film that for a behind-the-scenes wedding video to show how I do it, and she'll get some free footage, so she gets something for it. But I want to be showing things that I am a fully working professional photographer, and that was a fully paid shoot. So how you're seeing that is not set up. It's not a workshop like a lot of other photographers would do in that scenario. This was a real wedding that they paid $3,000, $3,500 for me to do this wedding. And so you're going to see how I work with them, and you're going to see exactly how I work. There's nothing I changed on that. It's exactly how it was. I had to use the surroundings, like some of the shots internally when we were doing the bits and pieces inside. I had to work with areas that were in that room because it was the only place we could do that type of shot with. When she was getting changed, there was a TV screen behind her. I had to work with that. So, you know, there's things that you'll see in there that sometimes you have to work with what you've got. So it's a real working video. I'll post another video of that up next week, part 2 of it. It's going to be a number of parts on that. And I think at the end, when I've completed it all, I'll put the whole thing up so you could watch it in one long go. What else have we got before we move on? Oreo said Sony has a share in Tamron. Yeah, and I think you're right, Oreo. That's why they've added so much on that, giving them the ability to update it and also to work so well because they own part of Tamron. XT3 cannot run on USB power along with small batteries is a bust. In theory, you can run the A7 III and the A6500 for 24 hours with a power pack. Last couple of questions before we move on. The story is, do you think the Sony a7S body is too small to handle 4K 60 frames? No, I don't think it will be. Not if they put a decent processor in that. It should be okay. You know, I mean, I'm sure they'll look at that before they release it. Haas says, oh, you talked about behind the scenes. Yeah, me as a viewer would love to watch more behind the scenes in future videos. And I will film more of that as we go on. I want to also do a fusion one, Haas, because the one that you're looking at there is only stills. I'd love to eventually show you how I do a fusion video because that is a totally different ball game. And I'll show that as well. All right, let's keep continuing, guys. I'm going to go on to the next story. How long have we been on? Oh, my God, we've already been on an hour and it's only one story. Oh boy. All right, I wanted to just show you this quickly because this is a rendering that someone brought out of the a7000. I wanted to know what you thought about the rendering on this. It's interesting if you look, but again, I just don't know if we need this. I'm not a fan of that. I prefer another dial or something up there, you know? I mean, give me something else that I can use instead of that dial. I don't believe in a camera that has an LCD screen that you're looking at the back all the time in an electronic EVF, that you need to see what your settings are on the top. But let me know what you think about that. I really don't know if you need it, but you can see it's based basically on an A9. I think they've based it on. But yeah, let me know what you think about it. Do you like that design? Would you like this little LCD screen? I'd prefer another control up there, but anyway, that's what they're talking about on that. There's not much on that to discuss. Now, I did want to go to this next story because I thought this was really interesting before I open up the chat again. Dynamic range test has been released. It's who did the test anyway? I'm not sure if it mentions. Photo on stoppers or something, or photos. It's this down here. This photon stop photos or something has measured it. And I'm not sure if I agree totally what... well, I suppose the heading is correct. It says up here that the dynamic range test, both the Canon EOS-R and the Nikon Z cameras fall behind Sony's. I think if you're looking at that result, they're pretty close. I'm actually surprised by how well the Canon actually measures if you're looking at that. Yes, the Sony is still better, and you're looking at that overall. But the interesting thing here is that they've done this against the A7... was it the A7... I think this is the A7R3. Yeah, it's the A7R Mark III. Remember, the a7 III has better dynamic range again, so I'm not sure why they put the a7R III and didn't use the a7 III here, because the a7 III will be even a step above this again. That's got the best dynamic range that Sony have, so I'm surprised that they didn't do that. But a couple of things that I'm looking at when I'm looking at these figures, you can see here that the Sony is the green. You can see clearly that the Sony is better overall. And then you've obviously got the Nikon Z and the Canon as well. I'm really surprised at the Canon EOS-R how good the dynamic range is looking at this, and I'd love to see someone actually do a direct comparison in pulling up the shadows just to see how it works in real life, because they're often what I believe more than what I read in these sort of articles. You know, but it is really interesting looking at that I'm surprised how close they actually are. Again, looking at this, and I'd love to know some of your opinions, and we'll go to the live chat in a minute. I'd love to know what some of you think about this, but looking at that, I don't believe that dynamic range is an issue any longer with any of those cameras. Looking at what that shows to me, they're all within a workable range, or far more than what we would have had, say, 2 years ago or 3 years ago. You would never have got anywhere near this. I would have loved to have seen an a7R, the a7 III, compared into this to see how that range is on it. But again, like I said, I don't think the issue here is the dynamic range. What I do believe is more of an issue, clearly, is what system suits you better. So I think we're up to the stage now where dynamic range is no longer an issue, and I think that's a really good thing. So obviously, if you're buying into the Nikon Z7 or the Z7 or the EOS-R, dynamic range, looking at those figures, is no longer an issue. But like I said, I'd like to see a real-world review of this done, where you push the shadows up and we can compare it to see how they actually are in real life. Because even though they're saying the dynamic range is very similar, I remember seeing somewhere, it might have been Tony Northrup, was showing how you're getting the banding and all those sort of things coming in. So I'd be interested to know how clean the images are once you pull those up, and whether you see banding and other things. So, but I'm only talking about what I've just showed you. So when we're looking at this, all the cameras, I think, are completely acceptable. All of them are very good. The Sony's better, yes. One thing to remember, though, here is that you're dealing with a camera that's now starting to get on. The a7R Mark III is way older than those other two cameras. So who knows what we're going to get when Sony release their new cameras. So it's going to be interesting. But looking at those things, I think dynamic range is no longer an issue with any of them. What you've got to look at is which camera suits you. And clearly for me, I would be looking at the dual card slots is the thing for me. And like I've discussed with you all before, my clients, I owe everything to my clients. And I keep getting people coming on talking about, I've never had a card slot go. I'm going to drink anyway. Let me have a drink. Coffee. I've never had a card slot go. If you have a client that you're paying money and that can't be reshot, and you lose those images, you will never ever work for that client again. I can guarantee that. You will never work for that client again. You will also never get other images, other clients off that client. If you lose a wedding, if you lose a bride's images, she's not going to give a rat's whatever that, oh, sorry, I only used a one card. I hope you understand, but my camera only had one card slot. She's not going to give a hoot about that. She's going to care about losing her images, and I'm never, ever going to fall into that trap. So for me, as a professional working photographer, I'm never, ever going to shoot a shot where I can't reshoot it immediately without having dual cards. So for me, that's the type of thing that I'll be looking at. So the things that I would be looking at rather than looking at dynamic range, because clearly, like that chart that I showed you, all those cameras are terrific, is dual card slots, the focusing, what lenses are available, do those lenses meet my needs, and obviously Sony does, but you know, other lenses, is the battery performance really good on that camera, is the low light focusing great on that camera, is the low light, not only the focusing, but is the ISO terrific? Can I use high ISOs if I need to use those cameras? They're all things that I would be looking at now more than what the dynamic range is, because clearly looking at that, it doesn't matter. But like I said, I'd like to see a real world test on that. So I'm going to open it up to chat, because I'd love to know what you guys think about that. So where are we? Let me just come down. William said, I think A-mount is for the most part pretty much dead. They didn't even mention A-mount, William, so I think you might be right. Langston says, I too find the LCD kind of useless, but that's me. I don't think, I'm not even interested in it at all. Ray said, I'd love to see you doing fusion. Yeah, that's what I'd love to get done. I'd love to show you a fusion wedding. You've got to have a bride that will agree to it, though. I knew Hannah wouldn't mind that because if she was so much into photography. But you've got to have a bride that's willing to let you do that. And when they're paying $5,000 odd, I've got to be totally sure that they're comfortable with it. So I have to wait until one will let me do it. Carl says, no top screen. Looking forward to seeing more Tamron glass. So am I. I really am. I adore that Tamron lens, that's for sure. Did any of you notice any difference? Just while we're in the live chat, can anyone let me know if they've seen any difference with the Tamron 28-75 after upgrading to the version 2 firmware? I saw a lot of people, well, not a lot, but I did see people complaining that the focusing had slowed down. I haven't noticed it slowing down at all, but I'd love to know what you thought about that. Photomic said the top display allows you to free up all the clutter that shows up on the back of your LCD screen. Yeah, I just don't have a need for it though, Photomic. I've never used them. Tim said prefer a dial, so would I. Jason said Canon so poor might as well shoot with an X-T3 and get very similar high ISO and dynamic range. What else have we got? Any Sony 6050 2.8 coming also? Well, I haven't heard anything. William said, lose the top screen, it's not needed. Just drop a flip out screen and all do mirrorless, become 10 times better. Photomix said, can you hit thumbs up on my latest video, please, and thanks. Oh, and leave a comment. I will, Photomix. I haven't watched it yet. Jason said, laugh out loud. Carl says, the issue with Canon and Nikon is banding and amplified shadows. Yeah, and that's what I said. We have to see full-on reviews. Often these charts mean a totally different thing than real life use. And I agree with you, Carl. That's what we have to see. Photomic said dynamic range really is a non-issue unless you shoot Canon. And I think I agree with you, Photomic. You're probably finding that Nikon is a Sony sensor anyway. Jason said, laugh out loud, Mike. Joe said, forget the top LCD screen, put Fuji dials on it and you'll always see the main settings. And that's true, and that's what I love about the A9. I do love the Fuji settings. Even having your shutter speed on there though is amazing. I'd love to have that. Jason said, I wish Canon would use Sony Sensors, probably buy the EOS-R just to use their tilt shift lens. But remember, tilt shift lenses are always manual focus, Jason. So there's no reason, that's one lens. It doesn't matter if you buy an adapted lens because it's manual focus anyway. So if you're dealing with Nikon, Canon, you just buy whatever you like and you can use that on a Sony camera because they're manual focus anyway. So don't be worried about using tilt shift lenses natively. It's irrelevant. Hope you like Pick said, I had a card fail me 4 weeks ago. Good thing was I was shooting for fun and playing with my a7 III. It's just not worth it. It's like Russian roulette. It is going to happen one day. And you just have to hope it's not a paid shoot. There's no way I'm going to use a single card slot. No way. Venom said, I think the argument should be less is 2 card slots are necessary, more why Canon and Nikon aren't giving it for the same money. I know, the price they're paying for those cameras, they should have dual card slots. I agree. Haz says, I can't find the a7 III in stock, and since I'm now worried about single card slot being an issue for professional work, what route should I take? Maybe the XT3, but the battery life is a bummer. I just put it on order, Haz. You'll get it. It shouldn't take too long. Jason said, is it really that difficult to find an a7 III? It is at the moment, yes, but it shouldn't take too long to get it. Too Smart said, built-in memory with 1 card slot would be fine with me. Yeah, that would be okay if you had a built-in SSD or something like that and then you had a second card as backup. That would be fine. Johnson said, I still have a theory that my a7000 and the a7S III will have the same body to implement the flippy screen. I'm hoping so. Oreo said, having a top LCD in a mirrorless camera is useful, like having a coal shovel in an electric locomotive. Jared said, no AF problems with my Tamron 28 to 75 even after the latest Sony update. Mark says, hi David, late from a shoot. Well, at least you got in here. All right, so let's go to the next story. I think this is the last one, or second last one. Just let me grab my coffee. Now, what are we saying here? Now, it's saying in here that Sony officially announces the new medium format full frame APS-C and what are they? Micro Four Thirds sensors. Now, they're talking about the sensors that they're actually using here. Now, if you're looking at this, let me just bring this up down here. Oh, where are we? If you're looking here, I wanted to mention this because we talked about medium format earlier. Now, they are obviously saying that they already have these medium format sensors. So that's the interesting thing that you're looking at now. Now, it gives you the model numbers of what these sensors actually are. And they're saying that there's a 150 megapixel sensor that Sony have already. That's that IMX or 1MX411 or IMX. Now, that's used in the Phase 1 and the IQ4. There's another medium format sensor that they're using, which is the 100 megapixel BSI. And that's used in the Fuji X-T100. So you can see that Sony would have a medium format sensor. They already have them if they wanted to go down that avenue. I just don't think Sony want to go down that avenue at the moment. And I think this is exactly the same way that Fuji don't want to go into full frame, because that marketplace is already crowded. So I think Fuji have made up their mind to stay in the APS-C type sensors and also their medium format sensors. So you can see that what they're doing is they're not trying to get into that into that area where there's competition. If you look at it, there's also probably, is there room then for Sony to also go down that avenue as well? You know, I mean, do you think that Sony would want to get into that? They may one day, but I don't think at the moment they're even looking at it. Just let me put some more coffee. I'm just trying to avoid it, so showing it. I don't think that we're going to see a medium format sensor anytime soon looking at that. Now, this is the interesting one. The 410 24 megapixel BSI is probably used in the Nikon Z6 and the Panasonic S1. So that's the sensor that's there as well. They're also showing a 26 megapixel BSI, and that's the one that's probably used in the X-T3. That's probably the sensor or a variant of it that is going to be used in the a7000. So again, that sensor is already there. So this is why I'm saying that I do believe that the a7000 is going to actually exceed what they're offering with the X-T3, because that sensor is already being used in the X-T3. And then there's another of other sensors that are actually being used there. So when you look at it, what Sony are producing in the sensors is incredible, isn't it? Like, it really is amazing what Sony have got in their sensor department at the moment. They really are covering everyone from medium format right the way down to this 11 megapixel sensor, which is for Micro Four Thirds. I think that's the one that sees in the dark. But wow, you know, and it really is amazing. And that's all I'm going to talk about in news today. So I want to open it up to actually questions, because we can now go into questions. We've already been on for an hour and 17 minutes. So we'll give it 15 minutes or so and see how we go. Let me bring this up. So you can fire away any question. I'm just going to have another coffee. What else have we got? Let me just come back to where we were here. X-T3 will not record to both slots for video. No, that's another thing, yes, which was an issue. Let me just clear this questions layer now. That's one great thing about the Sonys. They will record to both slots at the same time if you want to do that. But I still always think it's better to have a backup and just keep putting new cards in. That's one of the great things about having your dual cards, is to have a complete backup of what you're shooting. Now, Mickey Dyer said, Mike Dyer says, you can back up your photos automatically via Wi-Fi on your phone while shooting. The problem is it's not reliable. This is the issue with that it's not reliable, and it's often not quick enough. And it's still unreliable, that if you have something happen during a card slot, it's not completely reliable. I would never rely on Wi-Fi because it can drop out. You can have other issues with it, won't connect, things like that. Jason said, unless that happens automatically while you're shooting, it's not a replacement for redundancy. And it's also slow, Jason. There's no way you can make that as quick as shooting to a second drive. It's flawed. It's not a good backup strategy at all. Langston says, as a software engineer, I have zero faith in Wi-Fi backup. So do I. I would not rely on it at all. Gerald says, late here, but g'day, Gerald. Good to see you in here. It happens automatically while shooting. You don't have to do anything. Yeah, as long as it keeps a connection, though, that's the problem, and you never know whether it's going to drop out. And Langston said, assuming the phone has space, right? Yep. Spice Media says, both B&H Photo and Adorama has the a7 III. Interesting, and I have the link for the a7 III down below. Hart says, oh, so it's only for photos. Well, I mainly like photography, so I wouldn't be an issue. Yeah, well, that's fine. The a7 III is not just for photos, though. It's for stills and video. It's an amazing video camera. Joe says, a7 III is in stock at Adorama right now. Thanks, Joe. Christian said, hi everyone, what will you choose from the 70 to 200 f4, the 70 to 300? I get the 70 to 200 f4. That's what I'd be getting though. Charles says coffee equals beer. No, it's coffee, Charles. Multi-coffee. Oh, I love it. Now remember though, when you're also saying that your phone can back up to the cloud, I often go to areas where there's no cloud. I can't get reception. Look, the only way you can truly believe what you're getting, and this is like I'm saying, you owe your clients everything, Mike. Wi-Fi backup is not reliable. Cloud backup is not reliable because you may not have it. The only thing you can trust is when your camera backs up on the card at the time, so therefore you know there's no latency, there's no delay or anything like that happening. It's the only way of having something that you know is basically 100% reliable. My clients to me mean everything. There's no way I am going to lose my client's work by having something that could fail. And having Wi-Fi backup or backing up to the cloud is not quick enough and it's not reliable enough. So there's no way known I'm going to do that. The only way I can fully give my client 100% basically redundancy is to have a second card in the camera. If you want to go that way, that's fine, and you're comfortable doing it, that's fine. But there's no way known I'm going to risk my clients losing their work. No way. Langston said, or just follow the kiss that's been beaten into my head, and that's just have 2 card slots. Exactly. Fathom Rocker said, Sony medium format, we're going large 810 sensor. Yeah, I don't think we're going to see a medium format for years, probably though on Sony. I just don't think it's going to actually happen. Has says, hi guys, I'm looking on the websites if I could order one now. Please use the link down below, Has, because that'd be fantastic. Mike says, actually, the backup to the cloud and phone is better than the second card slot since you view your photos instantly on a larger screen. I don't agree with that at all. I'm not worried about viewing it on a larger screen straight away. I want to make sure that I've got a backup on my card that's actually intact and reliable. Backing up to the cloud often is you don't have that. The problem is with Wi-Fi, you can get interference and not have coverage and it can drop that signal. The problem with uploading to the cloud is what if you haven't got a signal? What if there's no Wi-Fi there? What if there's no phone connection? These are the things that you have to understand. I'm not going to buy a camera that if I go out to the bush somewhere like that wedding I did on that farm, there was no reception out on that farm. If I go out to that farm, I can't use that. I can't use that backing up to the cloud. And then if I lose my Wi-Fi signal, I've no longer got redundancy, Mike. It's not good enough, mate. And this is why I'm saying to you that if you're doing something that cannot be reshot, you have to have dual card slots. Now, if you don't agree with that, that's totally up to you. And I'm just hope that you never lose your a wedding kiss or something like that, or a bride. It happened to me when I was doing a shoot, and that would not have saved me when it happened to me. So, you know, it's something that I'm saying that my clients mean everything to me. I would buy a dearer camera that had dual card slots. If I was a Canon user, I would be buying the 5D Mark IV. If I was in the Nikon side, I wouldn't be buying the Z series cameras. I'd be buying the D850 because it's got dual slots. If you want to do that, that's totally up to you. But there's no way known I'm risking my client's work. No way. Not on something that can't be reshot. David and the hard coffee. Yes, it is a hard coffee. What else have we got? Michelle said, GH5 image stabilization is mind-blowing. It is. It's incredible. I've seen nothing like it. The Sony is quite good. Michelle, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but it is actually quite good. It's nowhere near as good as the GH5, but it is actually good enough to handhold when you use a image stabilized lens. And I do often do that now. It is actually quite good, but nothing like the GH5. The GH5 is ridiculous how good it is. David's on the hard coffee. Yes, I am. Sam said, why make backups more complicated by trying to make it wireless? 2 card slots, hardware backup with no Wi-Fi fuss. It's easy. Exactly. It is, Sam. And I agree with you totally. Keep it simple and then it will never fail. This is the thing that the other system we're talking about Wi-Fi, the other thing we're talking about uploading it to the cloud can fail, and that's the problem. Carl said, exactly, try backing up 1,000 RAW Plus files on your phone. Yeah, it's just not practical. Just not practical at all. Unfortunately, some people will still go on and on about it, but I'm telling you, it's not going to work. It's not going to work for events. That system will not work for events. Langston says, what about those portable hard drives? I did do that, Langston, and I showed you that before. But the problem is it doesn't help you if your card fails. It won't help in that regard, that, you know, and then you miss those moments. This is the problem that can happen. If it causes you to miss moments, it's not acceptable and something that can't be reshot. Fathom Rocker said, cloud backup from camera app sounds sketchy to me. I wouldn't trust it either. How do you find Sigma art lenses for AF in video? Not very good. Not very good at all. You need to get native lenses if you're going to do video tracking. That's the problem. I haven't used it, though, with the new version 2 firmware update. So if anyone has, they can let me know, but I'd be surprised if it's anywhere near as good as using a native lens. So let me know if anyone has tried the new AF with the Sigma MC11 on the version 2 of the Sony a7 III and they're shooting Sigma for video. Let me know if anyone has done that. If no one in the live chat's done that, let me know down below because I'd love to know what you guys think about that. Gerald said, seasoned pros won't ever rely on Wi-Fi or the cloud. Younger folks have too much faith in the cloud and Wi-Fi, but I would never put my clients at risk. And I agree with you, Gerald. This is the thing. Like I've said to you a number of times, clients should mean everything to you. Because for me, word of mouth is my major way of getting work. If I lose images, I will not have any word of mouth from that client and my reputation is shot. That's not going to happen. There's no way I'm ever going to miss a wedding or an event or something that I do where it can't be reshot with not having dual card slots. It's just not worth it. It is just not worth it. Sam said, I work in computer support. The cloud isn't all it's cracked up to be, and it's not where I want my sensitive photos. Trust it to third party. Langston said, Gerald, what about the portable hard drives that basically copy the entire contents of the SD card? Yeah, and that's what I showed you, Langston. I've done that before, and I use it all the time. But it still doesn't help you if your card fails while you're shooting and you miss that moment. This is what I'm trying to say to you. It'll only back up what you've shot. So if it fails as you're doing it and you haven't got a second card slot, you're gone. So it won't save you in that regard. Mike, Mike, you're going ridiculous. I've never, ever heard of 2 card slots failing. You show me one example where 2 card slots have failed, and basically it doesn't happen. No one has ever had a second card slot. It doesn't happen. Delta Dave, the R&D to develop a full-frame manual focus system wouldn't be cost-effective for a Sony in a niche market. You're talking about medium format. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they do in that regard. No clouds in Australia. I love it. Ken said, Sony a7 III on the Crane gimbal. I can tell you how I do it. I always use center focus and keep the subject dead center, or as much center as I can. I like to avoid the focus basically moving to somewhere else. So for me, I like to use dead center focusing, and then it works. Now, you can find sometimes too, it's good to turn face detect off because it can grab a face if they see that off center. But I always like to use just center and keep the subject dead center, and that works for me perfectly. What else have we got? Settings do you recommend while shooting bridesmaids coming down the aisle? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Use center focus, Ken. It works beautifully. Then keep the camera looking dead down the center of the aisle, and they'll be in focus. Like I said, there you have to turn face detect off though, because even if you're using center, it might see someone on the corner of the frame that it might grab their face. So I just use center, and it will always keep the bride walking down the aisle or bridesmaids walking down the aisle in focus. I hope you like pics. Says, how do you think the Sony a7 III will do photographing brick walls? Oh dear, you're lucky I'm having a beer, honestly. Jasper said, laugh out loud, imagine trying to save 10 uncompressed RAW files a second to a phone over Wi-Fi. It's actually stupid. I know, it's not practical. Sorry guys, just came in. Did this guy mention any 35? No, they didn't. If the GH5 autofocus was a little better, it would be the #1 camera. I agree with you. I wouldn't have sold it if it was. That's for sure. Haas says, what first lens would you recommend for the a7 III? The first lens I'll get is a 28-75. That would now be the first lens I would recommend anyone get for the a7 III. It's not expensive. It works like a native Sony lens. You've got that almost macro focus. It's dead sharp. Definitely I'll be getting that as a first lens on the a7 III. TC Productions is here late. G'day, good to see you in here. How about the Tamron 28-75 AF for video? It's fantastic. No, I wouldn't say it's second to Sony. It's equally as good to any Sony lens I've got. May not be as fast as the 55 1.8, but it's pretty close. So I'd recommend that for video. Remember, when I'm talking about native, the Tamron is like a native lens. I'm talking about adaptive lenses working through adapters. Watching this delayed, but I just wondered if you had a nice layer of cream on that dark malt coffee. Well, there was a bit of cream on it at the beginning, a nice layer, but it's gone now. But it's still very malty. It's nice, this coffee. Gerald said, never had 2 cards fail, never ever. No, I haven't either. I've only ever had 1 card slot fail, to be honest. But luckily I was saved by that second card. Mike is right. I could totally get hit by lightning while being attacked by land sharks, and that could cause a card slot to fail. Daniel said, Profoto D10 versus a D1X. I'd get the B10. Yeah. I'm almost thinking about selling my B1s, but I don't think I will, Daniel, because sometimes if I'm trying to overpower the sun, I might need the 500 watts. But I've overpowered the sun with the B10 with that Magnum reflector, and it works perfectly well. I would definitely get the Profoto B10 over the B1X at the moment, definitely, no doubt about it, just for the LCD light alone. If you ever had 2 card slots fail at the same time, it's time to play the lottery. Exactly. It's not going to happen. Mike, I'm just going to give up because you're not going to give up on it. That's your choice whether you want to use 1 card slot or not. Jamie says, I heard the phrase, One is none, two is one. Always at least one of something to fail over two, whether that be a card slot or a backup location. Yeah, I'm just never ever going to use it. Do you use face recognition for weddings? Yes, I do, all the time. I register the bride and I register the groom, and I use face detect. I love it. What else have we got? Daniel said, I am excited for the Zeiss ZX1. It has an internal memory, while I don't think it has a card slot. Yeah, that's the problem, Daniel. I wouldn't be buying that for that reason alone. If that drive fails, your camera is useless. It's a bit of a problem, I think. That's what you've got to think about. Those drives do fail, and if that fails, you've got a useless camera. At least if a card fails and then you've got a second card slot, well, then you can shoot to that second card slot. If you're traveling and then that hard drive's gone, you're finished. You can't use it. And I think that's a bit of a flaw with that camera. All they needed to add with that camera, Daniel, was a second card slot so it can back up to it. Although everything probably operates from that, so it'd probably be useless anyway. Jason said, if you want the odds of both card slots failing, here is the math. Failure rate times failure rate equals probability of both events occurring at the same time. It's just not going to happen. Gerald Williams said, if someone already had a Sony 24-105 f4, would you recommend getting the Tamron 28 If you need the low light and the close focusing, Gerald, yes. I probably... I'd love the 24-105 for travel, for instance. I think that's a fantastic lens that you could take for travel because it's got such a wide focal range. If I was doing general wedding and stuff like that, I'd probably use the 28-75 2.8. It's great to have the 2.8, particularly if you're dealing with low light. And also using that close focusing is just amazing. So yes, I probably would recommend that you could have both and use both in tandem, for instance. If I was shooting a wedding, I'd keep the 28-75 on. If I was going for something like travel or location shoots, I might use the 24-105. So yes, both of those lenses are great. Langston said, what's a good lens for shooting fashion, in particular recommendations? You can't go past the 85 if you're dealing with fashion, and the 35. 35 1.4 and 85 1.8 or 1.4 are the perfect lenses for fashion, or you could even go to the 135 if you want to go to that lens range. What else have we got? Mario said, be careful with face detect at weddings. It is useful in many circumstances, but can be a disaster in others. Like during ring exchange, for instance. Yeah, I use it quite a lot now, Oreo, and I'm finding with the latest cameras it's pretty good. But again, don't forget you can program buttons, so immediately it switches to a different focusing mode. And I'll often switch between using face detect, and then I'll also grab things. I'll use the back of the screen to actually grab focus as well. If I think it's going to be an issue, I'll turn face detect off. Mike said almost 100 likes on the live stream. Go, David. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate that. I really do appreciate it. What else have we got? Jason said, it's refreshing to see and hear from a YouTuber who is actually a working pro photographer rather than a talking head. Yeah, and that means a lot to me, Jason. We were talking about that before, and I'm not going to mention names, but it is incredible the number of photographers out there. I get this stuff daily from these photographers, and nearly everything they're doing is trying to sell workshops. It's just ridiculous. They're trying to pretend that they're full-time photographers, but all they're doing is doing workshops and selling Lightroom LUTs or whatever you want to call them, and things like that. They're selling LUTs all the time, selling workshops. These people are shams, most of these people out there. I just don't know how they get away with it. Like, they're trying to sell workshops without having any working background at all. It's wrong. And I was talking to Ben about it over a coffee 2 hours ago, which is interesting. We were talking about that, and we mentioned a few names, particularly Photomix, one that's always in here that is a working pro. He knows exactly what I'm talking about. the true people you should follow are the ones that are working full time, because they are more involved in what's going on in the industry, of not trying to just shill something to sell it. All the money that I earn, I make some money off YouTube now, and I'm not going to lie to you, I do make some money off YouTube, but I wouldn't survive off what I make on YouTube, not even close. My business, most of my money, 90% of it, probably even more than that, is coming from me working as a full-time photographer. See, I hope you all understand that aspect of it, that I'm coming from a background of having a full-time job that's also doing videos on YouTube and doing this as an extra. So it's something that I really appreciate you saying that, because it really does mean a lot to me that you understand that I am a full-time YouTuber, Jason, full-time working photographer, not a full-time YouTuber. And so many of them are just trying to sell Lightroom presets, and selling workshops. Like, honestly, it's ridiculous. Like, Jason Lanier doesn't lie about it. He is selling full-time workshops, but he doesn't lie about that. Like, he comes from that angle, so that's fine. But then you're seeing these other people that are trying to say, this is how you grow this business and make $1 million a year, or whatever they're trying to do, by having a studio that works this way. And you can tell clearly that all they're doing is trying to sell workshops or sell their Lightroom presets. Jason doesn't do that. I know Photomix just mentioned Jason Lanier. Yeah, he did have that Nikon the other day, but Jason's not lying about it. Jason does run his business on workshops with some, and he does do some sales and things like that, like commercial shoots. But these other photographers are lying about it by saying they're full-time photographers. But you can tell, because 99% of what they're posting all the time is join my latest workshop. They're traveling all around the world doing workshops. They can't be. There's no way they can be doing full-time photography if they're running 20,000 workshops in a year and selling Lightroom presets and everything else. It cracks me up. Just be careful who you believe on YouTube. You really should be careful. So thank you for that, Jason. I really like that you noticed that. That means a lot to me. Organic said plenty of A7 IIIs in the USA. That's good to know that they're starting to catch up. Photomix said he was number 9. Thank you for that. Michael said 114. Whoop whoop. Thank you so much, everyone. Langston said, well, I'm a working photographer. I work and then I go take photos. That doesn't matter, though. You're not also trying to sell workshops, Langston, are you? That's the big difference, or trying to sell Lightroom presets. What else we got? Carl said the Z7 face detect locks on. Now, don't get me wrong, guys. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with selling workshops and also presets, but don't try and lie to people like I'm talking to you that I'm going to make you get $10,000 per every sale that people come into your studio. I'm a successful studio. When I'm doing studio portraits, my sessions are $450 per session for an hour. So, and I'm making reasonable money, but I'm not going to tell you I'm going to make $10,000 per session like these other people tell you. It's crap. It's just not out there, and it's unethical what these people are trying to sell you at just so they can sell workshops. It's wrong. Carl said the Z7 face detect locks on to the balloon in the background instead of the subjects. Oh, the balloon focus, that's a crack up. Charbok said, did you see the funny koala stuff by the angry photographer? No, I haven't. He cracks me up, that guy, honestly. Photomix says, I'll keep that in mind next time I do a birthday theme photo shoot or something, because it's going to lock onto the balloons. Jason said Lanier is pretty honest. He's a little cringe, but I actually quite like Jason. I think he's a nice bloke. Charbok said, disappointed if A7S III is delayed. I guess it might be Sony trying to make 4K 60 10-bit. Well, they're obviously doing something, Charbox. Yeah, it's obviously we're just going to have to wait. Charles says, Lanier is also about doing shoots and taking photos, not faking things. Yep, I agree. Mike says, I'm here because of the passion, enthusiasm and experience that David brings. Thank you so much, Mike. Carl said, Lanier is a good photographer. He is, Carl. I agree with you totally. Langston Ball said, never said, and I know that's what you're saying, Langston. He just reminds me of too many DPs I work with. Carl said, Jason has unusual personality. I'll leave it at that. Photomix said, that's facts, David. Tyler Johnson is a prime example of a true working pro. You can't always be doing workshops and YouTube videos if you're actually getting work, unless you are seriously outsource. Exactly. The reason, and you know what, I've even had people say to me, oh, you post another video, you can't be working full time. Well, I can, because I'm telling you how I work. I do weddings on the weekend. I will only do one wedding per weekend. So this is the way that I actually work. So if I do a wedding on a Friday, it cuts out Saturday and Sunday for me. If I do a wedding on Saturday, I won't do Friday and I won't do Sunday. For me, weddings is art. And this is what I tell people, that I don't want to be doing mass-produced work. I want to be producing art. So I don't want to be doing things over and over again. I want to be fresh for each bride that I actually work with. So that's how I work there. Now, my studio shoots are $450 for an hour. So I work that for an hour. Then if I do that, I've then got the rest of the day where I can edit those photos, or I can post a YouTube video. So YouTube is part of what I do. It doesn't mean, and this is, I had a comment the other day, a guy mentioned to me, you're posting YouTube videos, you can't be a working photographer. And I just said, do you even check my work? Do you even see what I actually post? And I said, show me some of your work. And naturally he didn't, but that's the type of thing that you say. So I am working full time. Like I said to you, 90% more than that would be coming through my studio, and I make some from YouTube. And as that's growing, I'm starting to make more and more. I'm always honest with you guys about what actually goes on, but I'm still at this stage, and I still will be for a long time, a fully working studio. And I love that, because I love the shooting. And for me, even all my model shoots that you see, 90% of those are paid shoots. They're not someone I've just gone out to grab a model, they're paid shoots. And that's one thing I want you to understand. So, you know, I am a working studio. And thanks for your saying about Taylor Jackson. What else have we got? Photomix said, Carl Lanier is a hustler for sure. Props to the man for constantly securing the bag. Mick Patrick said, on your Sony shirt, that was too large for you. Send it to the angry photographer. I'm actually thinking about giving that away, actually. I might do a contest or something on the in my Facebook site to give the larger one away, because I can't wear it. I hope Dave doesn't mind if I do that. Have you ever photographed a divorce? No, but I have had a couple of couples that have divorced. Time for another coffee. 117 likes. Thank you so much, guys. Michael said 118. It must have gone down one. You know, the funny thing is now, as I've become more popular, it's hilarious. I'll post a video and I'll get a down like before I could even... I've put the video up. It's a 4-minute video. I'll get a down like, and it's only been up 30 seconds. They think it hurts you. It just cracks me up. It's amazing. It really does crack me up. You watch this video, it'll have down likes. I don't know whether I've got any already. God knows. I don't think so. Yeah, there's 2 down likes already. I love it. Oh, it cracks me up. They think it upsets me, but it doesn't bother me at all. Oh, thank you so much, Joe. I really appreciate that. Phanamic said, Rob Hall is another working pro. Carl said, David does it all, a pro photographer and YouTube personality. Thanks, Carl. David never sleeps. I don't sleep much at all. That's dead true. Project Jive said, Tamron 28-75 or 24 1.4 GM for video, which is best? I'd go for the 28-75 only because I'd like the reach. But that 24 1.4 would be fantastic on a gimbal. But it's not going to be enough if you need to zoom in. Like if you want to work around the 85, you know, you can go up to 75 on that, which means it's good for portraits. The 24 is obviously not going to be good if you're just doing headshots and things like that. So as a first lens, I'd get the Tamron first, and then I'd get the 24 1.4 after that. Overdue said, where's Kiara these days, David? You did your successful channel bring exposure to her, and now she's doing big things in the modelling industry? No, Overdue, I did work with her obviously a couple of weeks ago. I will work probably again with her next week. It's just that it's nothing to do with Kiara. It's actually been to do with me. I've been that busy with weddings and other things that have been going on over the last couple of weeks that I haven't been able to shoot with her. I might try and do something with her again next week, though. So I did want to do a shoot with her this week, but there was a family issue that she had. I don't want to talk about, but it was she had a family death that she couldn't actually shoot with me this week. So I couldn't shoot with her this week, but hopefully I'll have her coming back again next week, because I just adore working with Kiara. The last time we did the shoot, which was with the iPhone and the a7 III shoot, she contacted me to say, David, we haven't worked together for so long. I want to do something with you again. So we did that again. I will definitely be working with Kiara again, guys, so don't worry about that. That will be happening. Tim said, I've been watching this for 3 hours. I assume only an hour ago, as this is a short live. Then I have to stop for dinner. How long have we been going? Nearly 2 hours. I'm going to cop it again. Bike says, I can usually suss out these types of hustlers. I know it's bad and it's getting worse. Thank you so much, Joe. Really appreciate that. Carl said, haters are standing by. I'll get so many of them, Carl. You wouldn't believe it. Fake photographer dislikes. Phantom Rocker said, can I guess at least one of those thumbs down? That's funny. Jason said, haters are going to know you're growing on YouTube. Yeah, and as I'm growing, I'm getting more and more of them too, which is interesting. Oh, thank you so much, guys. I got 125 likes. Charbuck said, anyone in your family watching these live streams, perhaps even commenting here? Don't know. Kerry's working. She works full time, so don't think so. Wi-Fi for backup? No. Need to go to work. See you guys. So I'm down on the last questions. Any other questions before we finish for the day? I'll post another, just to let you know, I've got a wedding tomorrow, so I won't be obviously posting tomorrow. I might get on Sunday sometime, and I'll definitely post the second part of the wedding video early next week. So you'll see part 2 of that. I'm going to do it in stages, and then at the end I'll post the whole thing if anyone wants to watch the whole lot go. Don't forget to join the photography and videography school. And also don't forget to add me on Instagram. I've just put that on the bottom there. It's Oastler. Make sure you add me on Instagram, guys, because I will follow you back. I promise. If you add me, I'll immediately follow you back. I hate people that follow and then unfollow. I always have programs that check that, and then I'll just unfriend them again. But if you follow me, I will always follow you back. So I'd love to see you follow me on there. And don't forget the photography videography school to join me there. It's obviously here. Let me bring this up and I'll show it to you before we finish for the day. It's this. If you search photography and videography school up the top, you'll find it. It'll come up. And obviously, if you look at it, you know, we've got things like, let me just bring this over. You see 2 people want to join the group now. See, I've put just about to go on YouTube Live, and then I've got things on here, like I post stuff that I've posted on YouTube. You can see Ben, who I had coffee with just before, has posted this lovely image of a trash to dress shoot. You know, we've got fantastic work in here. Like, it's just amazing, and people share video. Destiny is here, and she's actually saying that she's looking to explore videography. I'll comment on that shortly. You can also see some people here are already giving her ideas about what to post. Gerald's always sharing videos on here as well. But, you know, it's just a great site, and you've got people sharing stuff. Like you can see Himani has shared a video, a wedding highlight video. It's a great site because people are sharing video as well as stills. Torben is on here talking about Lightroom color against Capture One. So we've got some fantastic stuff on there, guys. So please join us on there. I'd love to see you join on there. Let me just quickly go back to this before we finish for the day. Your go-to lens sub 2000 28 to 75. I'd have to say at the moment is definitely my favorite lens for that money. Charbox, do you drones? Yes, I do. When I do the Fusion, I use the drone. Yes, I do. I use the Phantom Pro. Photomiac said, shout out to the lurkers. Do you think we're having lurkers here, Photomiac? I can't see the point if that's the case. Yeah, that's a bit stupid, isn't it, if people watch and they never get onto the comments. Finny Photo said, David, have you done a video on your studio before? My intention is, and that's why I bought Capture One, was to do start showing shoots live like Photomiac does. I'm going to, so then I can tether it and get on live. I will do a photo tour. I might do that on the next live, actually. I might take you through my studio. Don't crash the drone and the bride. Yeah, I know, exactly. I'd never get close enough to do that. Jonathan said, quick question. Do you know, does face detection work for video as well as the for the a7 III? Yes, it does. I know the AP is in here somewhere. I don't think so, but you never know, do you? If he was there, I'd love him to say hi. He comments sometimes on my videos, especially when I take him off. Shout out to the silent lurkers. Can you recommend who to watch to learn hybrid shooting? Well, I definitely talk about it a lot, but there's no one really doing it, Altric. Really, I'm probably the only one I know that does it. When I'm talking about does it, I mean I'm talking about shooting video and stills at the same time. I don't know anyone else that does it. That's why I do want to do a video talking about that. Laugh out loud, right, Jason? Who are you talking about there? Photomiac. That's funny. Casper said, go away, Nikon fanboy. Bike Vision said, cheers, David, have a great weekend. Chowbox said, AP is watching so he can get inspiration for his live stream a bit later. Photomix said 211 viewers and the same 10 people are the only ones talking. I know, I wish more people would pop into the chat. I agree. Jason said he's too busy stroking the medium format sensor. Poor Angry. Finney said, Altric Winston, that one camera guy, Jason Vong. I know, I wish those guys would pop in. I always pop into their chat. I don't know why they never pop in and support others. Michael said, 131, the crowd goes wild. Photomix said, AP's live stream be so dry. Charbox said, live streams are awesome too. Haltrick said, thank you. Photomix said, no, they aren't. All you do is sit there and look at him in the bed and read comments as they come. Not sure who you're talking about there. Thanks for the answers. No worries at all. Organic Farmer said, good night. Photomix said, hey guys, trust me because I don't have any affiliate links. How can I fully trust someone that doesn't care about supporting his family and making a living? Jason said, you left out, I had the worst day. Altric said, I had the A9, I want to get the most out of it. Photomix said, Jackson Taylor shoots videos and photos at weddings. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I don't know many people that do it. Does he do it exactly at the same time, Photomix? Is he like me, holding both at the same time? Because I haven't seen anyone do that apart from me. So that's interesting if he does do that. Sometimes these people do video and that and they hire people to do it. I'm doing the whole lot at the one time. Like I said, holding the gimbal and the camera in my hand at the one time. And doing everything myself, like setting up the audio, doing everything. So I run the whole lot. It's nuts. I have to film it because it's incredible. I'm exhausted at the end of the day though. But yeah, it's interesting to see. That's about it. So I think we're up to date, guys. We've been on for 1 hour 56. I know I'm going to get some comments. I've got 3 down likes now. I only had 2 before. Oh, those guys crack me up. It's all the Canon supporters and Nikon. I'm sure of it. They just hate everyone. Hate everyone that's not a Canon or a Nikon user. Which is crazy. I never go into anyone's video and put a thumbs down. It just cracks me up. It doesn't upset me at all, actually. I just laugh about it. Charbox said, only big muscle guy holds 2 cameras. Well, I'm telling you what, I wouldn't be doing it if I was holding a big Nikon or Canon. I can only do it because I'm using the Sonys. Photomix said, yeah, he just posted a video. Oh, cool. He does it with the same camera. Not quite like you, okay. But pretty close, and he has a backup. Lanks and Ball said, I don't know, you work with a Rowan S and the 24105 for a few months, you will be fit enough. Exactly, I couldn't do it. Jason said, David must be a lizard. He can look left and look right at the same time. It's full on. It is completely full on. But boy, is it a good thing if you can get good at it. That thing is a workout plan. Altric said, laugh out loud. Coffee is frozen by now. Well, yeah, but it wasn't hot in the beginning. Mick said, coffee is... Go for 5, 1 Canon, 1 Nikon, and 1 Laney Pentax user. All right, guys, I'm hopping out. I better get back to some wedding editing. I I'll see you all over the weekend. Have a great weekend, guys. Check out Photo Miak's last video because he said he wants a thumbs up on that. His last shoot that he did with I can't remember what it was. I think he was showing the focusing or something. I did see it. I just haven't had the time to watch it, but I will. And I'll see you all again for the next video, guys. So catch you all later. Have a great weekend. And I'll see you all again soon. Bye for now.